What is up, everybody? We're back over here, man, on Believe if you're listening on audio version. But we're also on LNU, man. Shout out to Speak Easy. Look, I don't even know what I want to call this because I don't know if we call Easy the guest or not because Easy did put this thing together. Easy hooked it up. He sent me that link and everything. So Easy did
Yeah,
all the hard work. You know what I mean?
collaboration.
Yeah, collaboration with Easy here. And today, man, I don't know if the title is this, but we're previewing the Lions Dallas Cowboys. This is just good to be back, Easy. It's good to be back to football, man. But I'll tell you what, that bye week kind of flew by a little bit. And as soon as the
Yeah,
bye week hit, it's like as soon as the bye week hits, if it's before the trade deadline, it's all trade deadline talk. Now the deadline is over. It seemed like it flew by. I kind of like getting out of the way early. And plus, you know how there's always like, oh man, did we get the bye week too early before the season starts? Based on
yeah.
where our injuries were at, I don't think we got it too early. I think we got it at an okay time. Easy, how you doing though, man? I'm gonna let you get going.
I'm doing great, man. I'm sure we're getting a lot of the stuff. I'm doing great because of Detroit Lions. That's why I'm doing great. I'm happy that they're back. And like you said, the injuries got cleared up throughout that bye week. It couldn't be a more better time. I'm doing great.
That's good, man. I see you with the jacket.
Well,
Depending on when you're
the
seeing
gritty
this,
Tigs, the
what's
gritty
what
Tigers.
bro, hey, they're doing work too. And like I said, I usually don't watch baseball, so I don't know exactly what I'm looking for. I don't know I know one player. I know Torkelson because I remember when he got drafted and then he didn't
Yeah,
play, so then I didn't pay attention. But I'm watching them. Man, they got dudes in the back end. I
dude,
don't know what you call it, but they're doing work, man. They're shutting the Guardians out. That's what's beautiful. I feel like I'm watching the Lions defense, if you know what I mean. Easy, you could probably relate to that.
honestly, it's a legendary run right now. What they're doing it's truly crazy. That I don't know if you saw this already, and I'm sure everybody already heard this too. But like they had a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs.
Wow.
Made the playoffs and been on an absolute tear ever since. We've held the Guardians the longest scoreless stretch they've ever had in postseason history, 19 innings of no scores. And that's following this Barstool guy kind of talking crap about the Tigers not scoring in that first
Mm,
game. All right. I'll say this one last part. And
go
this is
ahead.
where it starts. You can romanticize it, which is like that's the beauty of sports. So they have this guy on their team. You know what the Cy Young is?
Yes.
So they have the Cy Young candidate. He's a closer, Emmanuel Class A. He only let up 5 runs, Dion, on the entire season. 0-0. This guy comes in. It's not looking good for the Tigers. There's 2 on base, which is crazy that even happens with him. And then beyond that, hold on, let me tell my dog to shut up. And then from there, this guy, Kerry Carpenter, knocks it out of the park. And that's the game. And so that's 3 runs on this guy who only let up 5 runs on the entire season. It's the gritty Tigs. It's legendary. Sorry, we're done.
No,
We
that's
go.
good. It's good background because I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that was a thing. I saw the hit. I didn't know any of that was background information though because that's good to know. I
Yeah.
didn't know that was a thing. See, I'm around a lot of Guardians fans, so I hear about the Guardians all year, how good they were. They were rolling at one point this season. I know that. Like I wasn't really paying attention, but I know they were rolling. And
Yeah.
I guess there was. I don't know if this is true, but I guess they were like a big scoring team. So to see them get shut out twice, just like dang, that's pretty nasty. Okay, and that feels like a baseball thing. I don't know, but it feels like a baseball thing where it's like truly, if you're just hot at the right time, like this can happen. And then also, it
Yes.
feels like there's a lot more upsets. Not upsets, but there's a lot more like we can come back from 3-1 just because if we're hot, then you just stop hitting. It just we can come back. I remember that happened to the Guardians.
Yeah. No, that's like if you don't watch too much baseball, if you tap in towards the end of the season, just see who's like on the hot streak heading in and vibing, it's kind of easy to pick who's gonna do damage. You have high payrolls, but like the hot team is who wins in baseball.
No, it is pretty magical. Give a shout out to Broder for that because he's the baseball
Yeah.
guy. He's the Tigers
Got
guy,
the
man.
voter.
They got real hot this season. It was like, what the heck? They saw their record, and here they are, man. It's crazy. Okay,
Crazy.
so let's dive into this, man. Lions, Cowboys. We're gonna hit on a couple
Yes.
things here, but I think first off, just because of where we're at in the week, we had to start with the injury updates because we had the bye
Okay.
week. I'll start with the big one, and then I can kind of throw it to you. But for me, it's Brian Branch coming back. That one's massive, full participation. It looks like he's probably gonna play this weekend, I would assume.
Yeah.
We didn't really like. I felt like we missed him in spots, but it didn't really show up because we scored 42 points against Seattle. But as I always say, I feel like you can make the case Brian Branch is the best player on our team at any time. He's just that good, and especially against the run, especially when you get into this week. Because here's the thing: the talk's going to be about Dallas's rushing offense maybe not being there. But I don't hate their run game in a lot of spots, and it feels like with so much of what they do, so much is cutbacks, so much is zone running, that these safeties and these guys from the back end, that they have to get involved. The cornerbacks will be involved a ton. Like, this is where Brian Branch kind of just shows up, where he can play deep on the play and still make a play against a run for 3 yards. So I think this is going to end up being huge for the run game. It may go a little bit under the radar, but getting him back is going to be massive. I don't know if you've seen any of the injury report. Have you seen any of it?
I did. I just saw on their side they might get Deron Bland back this week. At least they're rumored to.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Which makes things a little bit interesting. But yeah, in terms of Detroit Lions side of it, Brian Branch, huge. I think he would have saved us from a lot of those outside runs against Seahawks. But he said, old news, we won that game. Jared Goff, jersey in Hall of Fame, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. 18 for 18.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's about time.
Jersey is in the NFL Hall of Fame because of Jared Goff. That's kind of crazy. Anyway, Frank Ragno. And I think we would have been able to run the ball against his team regardless or not. But this guy, I'm a fan. I'm truly a fan of this guy. And the fact that he's just back for a partially torn pec after 1 week of rest, 2 weeks of rest. I love him. I mean, that's also plus news. Two guys I love, Brian Branch and Frank Ragno.
Yeah, Frank's built different for sure. Because you hear the news, and my thought was, okay, if they're not going to put him on IR, just sit him out. I'm like, I don't know how this gets really better. Like, maybe it just stops hurting a little bit, but it's not going to be like untorn, I would feel like, within a couple weeks. But yeah, to your point, now it looks like he's going to play. I'm like, all right, he's just playing through. He just doesn't care. Yeah, that is Frank. I mean, Frank has been that guy over the last, like, however many years, more so than I feel like any other player. Well, I mean, I give Sabre Brown that too, because he's always dealing with something, but he never shows it. But Frank Ragno literally is the only guy with like 4 things on the injury report, and he's still playing. The dude's insane. It'll be good to have him too. Yeah, to what you're saying there. Little side note: Mahogany returning. Well, not returning, but he's opening that 21-day window. We haven't even seen Mahogany play, so I don't know what to do with that really. But I guess it's good. I mean, it'd be good. It'd be better than hearing that he's out for the year, that he's at least getting back to practice. And it sounds like he's actually going to be practicing. So that's good news on the side.
For sure, it's going to be good news. It's a complicated run scheme. So, like, young guy, you need him to get it under the belt now. You know, that's the way I look at it. I had high expectations for him, especially as a run blocker. So I'm happy to have him.
Yeah, and
does end up being something he, needs a little bit more maintenance on.
That's true. No, K.O. stepped in last week, but the weird thing about K.O. was his run blocking wasn't great. It didn't feel like he stood out there. I thought they played to his strengths a little bit, which was nice. He wasn't. Well, I mean, it's you're downgrading. You're obviously downgrading when Frank comes out. He wasn't bad. I'm not saying he was bad. He was solid. But they played to his strengths a little bit. But I do feel like where he had like kind of misses was in the area that Mahogany's really good. So like, yeah, I don't know how fast this is gonna turn around, but this feels like something by the playoffs where actually he could be in a game for some whatever reason, just because of how it goes with on the offensive line. And then the Derek Barnes one. Now I want to know, did you see anything deeper? I just heard that he may be out for the season. That's as deep as I heard on it. Did you hear anything more than that?
He's likely out for the season. They officially put him on. Yeah, they put him on IR as well as Davenport. Dan Campbell talked about it yesterday. I think it was Monday. He's kind of confirmed, like, yeah, that one's it'd kind of be a little bit of a miracle if he made it back.
Yeah, no, that one stinks, man. Because I think we felt that against Seattle too. I don't think we really have a replacement on the roster. Like last year, it was like, okay, we'll just kind of put Jack Campbell in that spot. It doesn't seem like they want to do that with Campbell. So we got Ben Neiman kind of doing a little bit, and then we just felt like we were kind of rolling around with just different options. I don't think we have a great option, and I don't think there's a lot of great options out there. I think Derek Barnes is weirdly like one of the more difficult players to replace on this team.
Yeah,
because NFL teams don't have Derek Barnes.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's I'm not gonna lie, Dion. It's like two handsome guys that may or may not be on this stream. One, a guy named Alex Van Ginkel on his team because he kind of can do those things for you, and he's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, Van Ginkel's going crazy with the. It just hurts even more than with the Vikings. If he was doing this for any other team, it'd be like, all right, Van Ginkel's doing work. But no, he's doing it with the Vikings, and then we're gonna have to see him in 2 weeks. Hopefully he makes no plays in that game. That's it. He can keep doing his thing. But yeah, Van Ginkel's been awesome. But you're right, Van Ginkel was like the closest thing to that because Barnes has become so unique in the sense of like, it's not, we'll go to this real quick before we get in this game. Trade deadline, it's not here yet, but that's all the buzz as soon as the bye week picks up. Like, I want to know if there's anybody that you got your eye on in terms of trying to acquire, or maybe just even a positional group. But the thing with Barnes is losing Barnes doesn't make me think like, oh, we need a pass rusher, because Barnes isn't like a pass rusher. Barnes is everything in one, man. It's like, you felt his absence immediately. There was the one little screen they ran last week, and our dude couldn't get off a block versus a tight end. I'm just like, I wouldn't have that issue. Like Barnes would get off that block. Against almost every tight end, Barnes is getting off that block. He's making a play, and then Ben Demon's struggle to get off. He picks up like 9 yards. Like this is just, I don't know if there's replacement. I don't know how you find it out there in the NFL, because I feel like with Barnes, it's been necessary that he's gotten as many snaps as he has, because it didn't start off like this, but has a much better feel within this defense. Like I think it'd be hard to just grab a player and be like, he's got the tools, and just plug him in and be like, he can do what Barnes can do, because Barnes seems to just have a really good feel and understanding of what they want from him. So because that, he's got like his own little niche role in this defense, but he also does it at such a high level now, because he feels like the game slowed down for him. And I think that's going to be difficult to try to just go out there and acquire. So I think they're just going to have to make life without him. And that stinks. I guess it's good to know early rather than week 14 or going into the playoffs. But is there any position or any guy that you have your eye on when we're coming up to this trade deadline?
Position group, between two things, because now that you bring up the Derek Barnes, we don't have another like true Sam replacement on the team. Maybe a Good. I'd be, I'm curious to hear your opinion on that one. But a name that I just didn't see being a thing, because it comes with a paycheck and Brad's just not really prone to paying guys that aren't from his tree. Hassan Reddick. I tissed it away so many times, but now you're talking about like a true linebacker, a guy that could, both drop. I mean, he's not the linebacker in terms of off ball, I believe, that Derek Barnes can be, but obviously he could rush at the same spot too. He played that as well. I think Hassan Reddick is a name. And maybe these are more pipe dream names too. So I'm sorry if I'm not giving like ones that might actually happen. But also Trey Hendrickson. I think that's Marcus Davenport. He have a former relationship with DJ Reader. I think that'd be a tremendous piece to bring on this defensive line.
Yeah, Hendrickson's crazy, bro. That dude is crazy. He's like the only piece it feels like the Bengals have. So it's like maybe the Bengals lose a couple more weeks, and then that thing's because I definitely, like, at this moment, I don't see a world in which they would even consider that, because they'd be like, bro, we don't really have anything else on defense outside of Cam Taylor-Britt. But no, if somehow you got that guy opposite, it should be ridiculous. Because he's such a weird story. Because I think he was like a late third-round pick, but then he like immediately, like year 3, just turned into one of the best in football. The Hassan Reddick one, to add to that too, is like his background is also, he's played off-ball linebacker, so he does have that in his bag. Yeah. Like he's used to do that. So I'm not mad at that one. Those are definitely, I've seen the Reddick one a ton, but that's just because of a weird situation with the Jets, and it actually seems to make a ton of sense. So I don't have an issue with that one at all. I think if you're looking for a guy that can get it to the quarterback, I don't really think there's a better option out there that's like just normally Hendrickson, you could say, is better, but Hendrickson just feels, like you said, not really much of a possibility right now. Reddick's a possibility. He feels like by far the best pass rusher. I mean, you go through a lot of these other guys that kind of just get their names thrown around and you see them on like a list. It's just not the same. There's a gap. I'm with you. Like, I wouldn't have any issue with lines, just something like that. For me, I went back to last year and went to Josh Uche again. I just feel like where we're at, it'd be like with the James Houston situation, where we have James Houston, and even though he's not the Derek Barnes replacement, he's just kind of like a change-up for the Lions pass rush, and I think Josh Uche would add that to the Lions if he was brought in, and he's on the final year of his deal. It's a cheap contract with New England. Teams were trying to acquire him last season. Don't know if that was the Lions or not, but to me, a guy like that, like, he's not going to replace Barnes, so we're still going to have to figure out that situation. But I still feel like we could use a different change of pace. Like Levi and Josh Pascal can kind of replace a little bit to me of what Davenport lost. I think it's going to be hard to find a guy that's just like, well, he's the next Davenport. That's why Davenport was a unique signing. But I think you could get a guy that maybe could bring more than we saw last week from Houston, or against Seattle from Houston. And really what we have outside of kind of just the pocket pushers outside of Aiden Hutchinson, like he could add something a little bit different to this pass rush. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. That's a great pull, by the way, Josh Uche. I think that makes tons of sense. We talked about it last year. New England's not doing so hot, and that's an affordable one. That's not the Hassan Reddick you got to pay right away too, because obviously he's not playing unless he's paid. And I don't think that's a characteristic of Brad.
Yeah, and the last thing on Josh Uche, the weird thing is too, he signed, prove a deal this year with New England, but he said reportedly there was offers of multiple year deals. So I don't know if he wants to leave New England, but I got to think, like, if New England's bad and if they would be willing to try to acquire any picks, like him being on that prove a deal, again, similar situation with Davenport's on. So yeah, you wouldn't be forced to pay the guy. He doesn't probably have expectations to be paid, but he's also been pretty good so far this season, that it's just like the possibility is still there. And then, like you said, he's not costing really anything. I think he costs like a $1.5 million to acquire is what the number is. So you just don't, those guys just aren't out there, because he signed back on a 1 year, $3 million deal.
I'm doing that all day. I have one quick question on the Derek Barnes front for you, because I'm looking up the name so I could pronounce it correctly here too. They signed Al Quadin Muhammad. He's played with Sam. We also got Mitchell Good. Can you see those guys stepping up to replace? Not replace. You can't replace Derek Barnes. I don't want to say that, but we'll take his spot as that Sam.
Oh, man, I don't know. I honestly, man, I don't know because I feel like in a way it's like I want to say like you can just like say like let's just not try to find a replacement. Like that's kind of the way I feel about it in a way. It's like let's not try to force someone into that spot just because we feel like we need that body type. You know what I mean? It's just like you're gonna take a drop off, so just do something different. You know what I mean? Just don't have that position such utilized so much. Someone will have to though, and it felt like they were rotating last week. And I would keep an eye on Trevor Noah. I don't know how to say his last name,
I heard his
but
name a few times. That's what you said perfectly.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. Okay, well, Trevor is the guy I'm keeping my eye on, man, because he didn't play a lot last week, but I think it's something. Easy, I think it's something, and I'm more of a James Houston situation. But towards the end of the game, James Houston's not in the game, and Trevor's in the game, and Trevor felt like he was impacting the quarterback more than Houston in the few snaps that he had. So he hasn't shown like the full, hey, he can play the run and drop into coverage, but we know that he's played that role, so I have more confidence that he'd be able to do that. I think he's interesting because he's already on the roster. There's a reason they kept him here. And it feels like a guy like that we're all kind of shocked, like, oh, they kept the open man roster for this guy, that they would be like, okay, we're willing to let him get a shot at taking over the role. There's a reason we kept him here instead of going through the practice squad. So I think Trevor ends up actually getting the next look at it for the Lions. And I think he could end up being there for the rest of the season, assuming they do nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was like 2 waiver claims throughout the entire NFL, and he was one of them. Detroit Lions lost him and wanted him right back for a reason. So that makes perfect sense.
All right, well, let's move to this Dallas game then, man, because I always like to do the players to watch. I think that just it's conversation on both sides here, and then we'll give our score predictions at the end. But yeah, let's start there. Let's start with players to watch for this game. I'll start with the Lions side. I think we should go there, and if we have anybody from Dallas, we'll throw Dallas on there. Any players that stands out that we think is going to be a swing piece. I don't like to look at this as like these are the players that are going to pop for sure, but just players that you think that, depending on how they play, is probably going to tell you basically how the game went down. That's kind of the way that I like to look at it. But we try to get a little obscure here, so we're gonna start. I want to give 2. I'm gonna give you a cheat one, and then I'm gonna give you a player. Because I'm going to start off with Aaron Glenn first, and that's not a player, I know, but I'm really curious to see how this goes down easy. And you can piggyback on this if you have to, because I feel like you had Glenn wrote down 2. I can see your list. Aaron Glenn, to me, is at the top, man, just because of I don't know how this is going to go. And I think Glenn's been really good this season. We know that all the talk off season. No, now he's got a pieces, that kind of thing. But this offense for Dallas, to me, is still really darn strong. And I'm watching them this year, and it depends on where their offensive line health is at. Like when we go to the injury report, depending on where that's at, could be a problem. Like they had Bass stepping in at left guard last week, and that was an issue for this team. And they had to move out Tyler Smith back to left tackle. Yet not having Zach Martin's massive because he's like all the cutback lanes. But assuming they're relatively healthy there, I still look at this offense, and it's just like, bro, Dak Prescott's playing maybe his best football I've seen. I don't know. I remember preparing for last year's game, and I feel like he looks better right now than he looked last season. He's like perfect example of being on schedule. The ball's getting out incredibly fast. The guy goes through like 3 reads by the time he's to the back of a drop. You know what I mean? Like he gets to his last drop, he's gone through every option on the play. So the ball's out super fast. And then again, back to the run game point, like even though the stats probably aren't great there, I don't feel like it's terrible. And Rico Dowdle, to me, has especially shown some things like last week, for example. So I don't know what Glenn's plan's going to be, but I'm curious to see like what the strategy is in this game. Is it going to be like we're going to try to make them dink and dunk down the field? I thought when the Giants, who's got a pretty strong defense, but as good as that defensive line was, at time they were gashed against run, and other times they made plays against the run. It's like, do they try to funnel everything and try to stay like, hey, stay underneath against us offensively? Are they going to try to create like a couple just negatives and be like, that's our advantage in this game? I think it's clear the best plan is play with the lead, because then Dak will have to throw the football and you force him just to hold the ball a little bit longer, trying to get the ball further downfield. But outside of that, for Glenn alone, like to start this game, I want to see what the strategy is. I expect a lot of cornerback blitzing. I think that's going to be a big part of this game. Is he's going to try to. I always feel like with Glenn, if I'm not sure, bet on the fact that he's probably going to try to hurry the other guy up. I assume that's going to be the case here. But Dak's just done such a good job. He's completing a high percentage. He's been really good off script. He's getting checkdowns out. It feels like every play is a completion for this Cowboys offense. So for me, I'll start with Aaron Glenn. I just want to see what the strategy is.
Yeah, I mean, you cheated for sure.
I cheated. Yeah.
I'm
hosting. Easy, if you were hosting, I wouldn't have cheated, but this.
I'm messing around. Yeah, Yeah, let me get Brian Branch as a player to watch for this one, just because I feel like he is that ace in your sleeve, a guy that you use in multiple facets. You have him play close to the line, you got him, back up and help out with CeeDee Lamb. I'm with you though too. Just going back to that Rams game, I think you might see a similar attack that way, where everything is kind of just up front, short and sweet, the same way the Dallas Cowboys, and to their credit, executed against the Pittsburgh Steelers' tough defense as well. I just don't really think you want to let CeeDee Lamb get going. And honestly, he's one of those guys. He just may get going. He's just that good. So it doesn't really matter whether you want him to or not. He could break out for you. But I think that's the type of game you want to play. I'm fairly confident in us stopping the run. That's just a consistent trait of the Detroit Lions defense. It's just with the tight ends. I know Dak used multiple tight ends last week when they absence CeeDee Lamb. Brian Branch is that guy for me because he'll be on those tight ends. He'll be out there helping with CD. Brian Branch is a player to watch for me in this one. And I'm happy.
Yeah, especially Ferguson. It feels like he's their number 2 a lot of times. Like they'll go to Cooks in some spots, but Ferguson feels like that guy. What you're pointing, they're playing all these tight ends, and then the Lamb thing too is like the strategy for that is like, okay, we're probably gonna see a lot of Carlton on him, but they move CD everywhere, and he gives me St. Brown vibes in a way. Like sometimes they'll put him out and they'll just be like, let's just get this guy 1-on-1, 3-by-1, let's get him 1-on-1. Then they'll put him in a slot. And then it's like, oh, it's second and long. Let's put him at running back. And I'm seeing this stuff. I'm like, they use him. They're going to force feed this guy the football. But he usually delivers. I mean, most of the times when he gets the football, good things are happening. And it's like, even if you kind of know the ball's going there, he's still like the touchdown that he had, I think it was against the Giants, was just nasty. Like he beat the corner off the line and then the safety's rolling over and he gets the ball immediately. Like that's where Dak is. When Dak's gone schedule, he's a problem.
Thursday night? Yeah, that was
insane. It was filthy. And that's the problem with Lamb is like, we remember it because we saw this guy was going crazy against this last time. It's like, all right, we have to send some help to this guy. He was just doing work. He was like the only guy cooking, it felt like. But then you see the Giants, and there's like situations where they're throwing extra guys, like they're just straight up doubling him. It's not like let's give help in the middle. It's like they're doubling CeeDee Lamb. Let's take him out of the game. So yeah, I like that choice. I'm gonna go here though because I'm gonna go off what you just said. I think the defensive tackles are massive, and I usually don't put them on here for the reason that you said because I expect the Lions run defense to get stops. Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, they're going to be great anyway. But I do think this week is huge there because I do feel like Cooper Beebe at center has been really strong. And I feel like when you watched him last week, I think it was against Leonard Williams. Well, no, that would have been with the Giants. But yeah, when you watched him against Leonard Williams, they have great defensive tackles. Or that's not Leonard Williams. I'm sorry, Dexter Lawrence. I got my names mixed up. See, you should have said something. I'm out here looking crazy.
No,
anyways.
I knew what you meant.
But you saw like, okay, hey, this can give him problems. But on the flip side, like at the other times, they create movement. And when they move guys, bro, they're driving that defensive line like 5 yards back. So I think because of the strategy for Lamb, you want to put a safety down the box to stop this run first and foremost, but it's going to be difficult to. So I got to circle those two guys first because you have that element where it's like if they can get downhill, they will get downhill. And anytime it's short yardage, it feels like it's a fullback dive or it's an inside zone. But then also on the backside, it's Ali McNeil, like it's Levi, because these guys, I think the thing that gives them seemingly the most problems on the interior is quickness. Anybody with some juice on the interior seems to be the problem. Once they get hands on guys, they move people. But if you watch BB, when he loses blocks, it feels like the guys kind of get on his side and then he starts holding. That feels like it's their problem. Zach Martin, as soon as they combo block, guys are just driven out. As good as those guys are, I think guys like Ali McNeil are going to have to be slippery. They're going to have to get in the backfield. And then obviously DJ Reader, to me, this is like the test game. I want to see what it looks like. If they shut this thing down, we're going to feel really good about the rest of the season because, again, throw out the numbers for a second. This team, they want to run the football. And when they're right on the interior, they have some big dudes that can do it. So I think the interior is one of these games where I'm really going to focus on how they're performing. And I think it's going to tell a lot about this game.
Yeah, and speaking of that interior, this guy sometimes pops out as well. Levon Zarica, another name. I think he's a guy that can cause havoc when rushing the passer. I love watching him. Just from when you and I went to camp, just watching it, whether we were on the sideline or in the stands, it was just great to see him back and great to see what Brad saw when he made that selection and Levon Zarica at the NFL level. I think he's been I love Levon Zarica. I mean, I'm mad that we missed out on this, but I'm more admirable of him just coming back and returning to like this form. Or was he going to be even better before the back injury? Who knows? But Levon Zarica has been fun to watch. I think he can get after the quarterback. I think he could also set the edge. I think he could be a stud on this Detroit Lions defensive line.
I like it. Well, we're going defensive line. Just real quick, just throw Hendrickson in there because look, man, he could be going against backup tackle potentially in this game. We can call it that. Yeah. But regardless, whether he's lined up against Steele or he's lined against Tyler Smith, what's up?
Or Guyton too, maybe.
See, and Guyton's had problems. That's been their biggest issue. Guyton's out there. He looks like he's having problems. So it's like the balance of, okay, Dak's probably going to hit the ball out, so a lot of times we may not recognize him. But from the games that I've went through of this Dallas offense, there's too many times where Dak doesn't feel like he's under any kind of duress. And I just feel like Hutchinson, who's been the best at football to this point, like this is the game. This is going to be America's game of the week. Everybody's watching this one. This is a game where you kind of, hey, you go win your defensive player of the year this week.
By the way.
Tom Brady's on the. Oh, I didn't even know that. See, now it's really America's game of the week. Like this is how you win Defensive Player of the Year. He goes out there and puts 3 sacks on the board. That's how you do, especially if you do play with the lead we talked about. Let me throw just flip it to the offensive side real quick, or let me flip it to the offensive side and Dallas side. You said DaRon Bland might be coming back. That could be big because Amani's been out there lately, and that just hasn't looked great for them. He made like a big play for it, but outside of that, he's kind of been picked on a little bit. But we like their back end. I feel like Diggs is. He's just going to take the ball away, so that's the problem with him. He may not be perfect, but he'll take it away. And then you got Lewis. There's been a little hit and miss, but on the outside, they feel like they need that cornerback back. I would say, though, offensively, I'm going to go right where I went last week, and it's Sam Laporta again, because I just feel like with this linebacker room, they have Eric Hendricks, who kind of plays well for them, but
he's banged up this week too.
See, and I don't. Even like that's the thing. Even if you play, I don't like that room that much. Like that again, kind of like Seattle. I don't love what they have there. They're young at that position, and they're slow. They feel like they're slow against the run a little bit. Like I expect the run game to be there, but I just don't trust it on paper as much as I trust their cornerbacks if Bland is back. So I'm gonna roll right back with Sam Laporta again this week, and then I can move to the Dallas side. But you got another one?
For Dallas, for them to keep an eye on, or
either
for us
side.
To keep an eye on for them? Yeah.
Either one.
DaRon Bland was one I'm definitely a little bit nervous for. He was an absolute monster last year. I mean, he set the record for pick sixes, did he not?
Yeah.
And I think he did it before the 17th game. A lot of these records getting broken these days. In my head, there's at least always an asterisk because I'm like, well, he's got an extra game to do so. I think he set that record before that 17th game. DaRon Bland is a guy I'm watching for sure. Outside of that, man, Dallas did nothing to get better. And I don't think they were – I think a little bit more fluffed and stuff last year too. They didn't have too many wins against actual teams above 500. The one they got against us came alongside the referees. No, maybe Dak. Dak is really the only guy.
Dak's been a dog. Dak's been a dog.
And he is. And I'm not even a big Dak guy, but he's been very impressive this year because, again, they lost more than they gained this offseason. So to watch him kind of just play his ass off, quite frankly, and will his way this team to the few wins they have this season. He's probably the guy I'd watch, and that's why I like Hutch. I think that's why we're talking about this defensive line. We need to get him under duress. We need to get him on the ground and mess him up.
You know, in a weird way, like I'm completely with what you're saying. You kind of got to respect Jerry Jones being so stubborn. He's like, I'm going to go sign one free agent. Because, like, if you think about it, like, he forced his team. It's like the Lions want to develop these rookies and, like, oh, they're going to become the future. But Jerry kind of just forced them to do it. It's like, I'm not bringing anybody else, and these guys are playing. I drafted him. And in fairness, because they're forced to, like, some of them have, like, Jalen Tolbert, we're like, oh, this guy's a pretty big part of their offense this season. So, you know, hey, I'll give Jerry Jones that look. Jerry Jones out here forcing the team to play certain guys. He's like, these guys are going to be the guys because you don't have anybody else. It's like, all right. And then, you know, I think the last point that I have to make to Dallas aside, it's the DNs that they don't have, of course, Micah and Lawrence, but it's Golston specifically because I think he's their best pass rusher coming into this game. Like, who's that guy? I think he's their best pass rusher, and he's a little bit inside, outside. And then Tyrus Wheat, I think is his name. He's popped a few times as well. Like, those guys would be the ones I'd circle in this one because, again, I don't love their interior, but also on the outside, I don't love it either. But these two guys have stepped in, and they actually played pretty well, I think, last week. I like our matchups better there because of our tackle play. Yeah. But if there's anybody that's going to get after the quarterback, it feels like those kind of people were the most consistent. Like, Mozzie Smith has looked rough in the inside. I don't trust that he's going to stop anything. Osa Odigizua, maybe been their best defensive lineman. I don't know how that maps out in terms of grades and things.
Pronunciations this morning.
Hey, we doing work. I had gum this morning, Easy. So, you know what I mean? We ready to go. I got the gum right here. Whenever you get gum in the morning, it's a good morning. I'm interested to see how this plays out, man. But, hey, that's my players to watch. I don't know if you got any more, and then we'll move to the score prediction.
No, yeah. I mean, the one name, and I'm only bringing this up because you and I covered him during the draft process, and he's from Western Michigan. Well, he went to Western Michigan University.
Oh, yeah.
From Michigan. But Marshawn Nealon was a guy I was watching for them when I caught them on TV just leading up to this game. I'm like, damn. I know they're missing this guy and this guy. He might be a problem out of the MCL. There's not too many guys, and I may eat my words, but Lions are coming in, high octane. and they're ready to get some revenge. Not too many guys are keeping on the eyes on the Dallas side. I should have had some gum this morning. Get my brain going.
Yeah, you're struggling. Is that no? I forgot about Marshawn Nealon, to be honest, because he got hurt so fast. Like it stinks. But at first I'm like, who is that? Oh, that's Nealon out there. And then immediately he's like gone. Like, oh, okay. That's super unfortunate, man. That would have been the time for him. I would have been fired up as a fan to just get to see him because of that situation. Okay, so we'll move to score prediction.
Okay,
you want to go first, or do you and me lay it out there? Because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be 100% right on this one. So if you want to go first, that's cool. Yeah. Just so I don't spoil it. You know what I mean? Movie guy.
Go 7. I'll go 20-34. Detroit Lions.
All right, that's incorrect. No, it's incorrect. I mean, it's the score. I give you that.
What do you got?
We're about at the same spot there. I had 20-30 Lions winning this one. And I think we have it for similar reasons. Yeah, I feel like we've seen this play out the same way. I think it's close early, and then the second half, Lions get like a 2-score lead at some point, and that's where I think Dallas having real problems in this one. That's at all costs they're trying to avoid that in this game. I would be shocked again if the Lions came out and said, let's just receive again, let's go score a touchdown the first possession, and we're just going to try to have a huge long possession. Because I could be wrong. Didn't last week they elect to receive?
Yeah, they did.
See, and I thought that
was the Green Camp revenge tour too, because like we're not leaving this one up to anything like finicky. We're taking control of the game right away.
And I think last week it made a ton of sense just for the game that it was and who we were playing. It was like, yo, Seattle throws a lot, so get them behind. And I think that's could be similar here with Dallas. You win it, I think he goes down, takes the ball first. We didn't even score last week. We went 3-and-out last week, but it still worked out. But this week, if we do score a touchdown, that's the mode they want to play in. So yeah, I'm with you. 2-score win. Look at that. We're both pretty confident, Easy. I like that.
I'm fairly confident in this matchup for so many reasons. Another thing too. I know we said that's our players to watch because we feel like they could determine the game, but like I'm expecting a big game out of David Montgomery. I think let him run, let him loose. I love this guy. I think he is my favorite player, and I feel like I'm almost afraid to say it because of popular names are J-Mo and Jameer, but this guy he's the non-sexy factor in this offense that just I feel like is easily forgotten about, and I don't know why, because he sets a tone with his physical play.
No, I mean I'm with you. Like right now, if you said I don't even want to say this on the show because now it's going to sound crazy. I think right now, like Dave Montgomery's the better back right now than Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's and what they do, like in their own role. Dave Montgomery's a better run. Dave Montgomery's incredible. But then you start to look at Gibbs' stats, and you're kind of like, dang, I didn't know he was doing all that. Like I was looking up a couple days ago.
Yes, I'm the same way with you.
You don't even notice it. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't know he had all these 20-yard runs and all these missed tackles for us. I didn't know he was doing all that.
Yeah, dude. Well, dude, I mean, it's just like Monty again for like what their role is. He's doing phenomenal. Like just establish that physicality, force Storm to put an extra body in that box, and then you open up the situation. Play action that we all know Jared Goff is great at. Jamison Williams. It opens up so much for this offense, but you need Monty to put the fear of the Lord in these defenders and defensive coordinators for that to happen first.
Monty's been playing at a crazy level. I'm excited for him to play the Bears this year because I feel like last year we didn't do enough with it. This is the year where he cooks the Bears. That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm with you, man. That's a good name. I think that's a good choice for the guy that's going to pop in this one. I think that's everything, man. We can leave it there. That was the first. That was our first episode. I don't know. We can come up with a show name for this, but first episode predicting things with Eazy on football. That's what we're doing. That's what we're
doing. That's like the title, just predicting things.
Predicting things, episode 1, man. Hey, we appreciate y'all joining, man, and hopefully we see you again next week, potentially. And if we do see you again, we're talking about a win and maybe a little even short recap after this week's win over Dallas because we owe them one. I think we've lost like 6 in a row or something. It's crazy. We owe this team a game. I know. I heard that yesterday, and I did the same thing. I was like, is that real? I guess it is. I'm assuming it is real because I'm like, I don't know. Last time we beat this team. I mean, last time we beat this team was probably the Stafford fake spike.
Yeah. It was.
It's been a while because
I think you're right.
Yeah, because the one before that, the Calvin one in the end zone, but I think that was before that. So it's been a minute. We didn't win with Patricia, and we didn't win with Campbell. So.
Yeah,
and we lost twice with Campbell. I know that because we lost that one where it was like kind of close, and then they pulled away at the end. They won by like multiple scores in Dallas. Why do we keep playing in Dallas? Hold up, we got to NFL. We got to figure this out Because you already know there's going to be some whackness we're talking about. Whatever we talk about this game needs to be at home. I don't know what we're doing.
This game is the battle for America's team because I feel like we're on the ups.
Ooh.
Enjoying that conversation. Detroit Lions been America's sweetheart. Everyone's rooting for us. Even if you don't like the fact that Detroit Lions fans are taking over your stadium and beating your teams, you love Dan Campbell. You know it. It's like Detroit Lions are slowly becoming America's team, and Dallas is slowly, stepping away from that. So this matchup is the title for that title.
That's tough. No, that's tough. And now everybody wants a Dan Campbell. Every NFL team's like, yo, how can we get our Dan Campbell? It's great. I hear it all the time, though. Well, that guy's kind of like Dan Campbell. Maybe we should hire him. Like, no, man, there's only one Dan Campbell. Let's be real. All right, I'm going to leave it there. We're going crazy. Hey, man, Eazy, appreciate you doing this. This was a good show. We got the Lions winning. Predicting things.